Hello everyone, let's finish off our tier list ranking of all the fight scenes. Today, let's do book 3 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Hello everyone, welcome to, I forget if I call this the Geek Talk or if I call this tier list, but you know what? You guys should already know what's up because this is the third video in this series. If this is your first video seeing me and this setup, you should probably go watch my book 1 and then my book 2 video about my favorite fight scenes, putting them in a tier list. Let's go. Book 3, starting with Piandao versus Sokka. So for this one, I generally like it. Again, everything in the Airbender franchise I feel like is a little bit stilted in its camera angles and shot selection, so it's not as dynamic to me, especially compared to the Legend of Korra fights or other anime fights. But what I like most about this fight is that it's really creative in the sense that Sokka is able to, even though he's not the best sword fighter, like he really can't contend with Piandao straight up, he's able to use like distractions. So like in terms of like strategy based stuff, I like the fight, but in terms of like visual appeal and choreography, I'm almost certain this is gonna be mid-tier for me, but I'm not sure. All right, next one we have is Combustion Man versus Team Avatar the very first time he saw them. I'm gonna put this one in A tier, considering putting it in S tier, but you know what, no, because some of the S tier stuff, because I'm already looking at this list and I'm like, I know what's S tier, and this one isn't quite S tier. I think it's a very solid A tier fight. Aang being able to stop the combustion bending by putting it into an airball was really awesome. Aang shooting himself up with the rock armor thing and pushing himself in the sky, and just the whole dynamic. I mean, we even see like Katara trying to contend with Combustion Man with a big old huge wave, which was pretty incredible in itself. This one's really cool. It actually feels like a little bit of a horror film. Combustion Man's kind of like the Terminator of book 3, right? He's just always following the gang and being really, really intimidating. I think it's a solid A tier fight. Okay, next up we see Roku versus Sozin, and I'm already gonna put this in A tier. Not sure about S tier, but this one actually impressed me more than I remember. So in just memory, like I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, I always want to go back and watch that fight scene, but going back and seeing this one, I was like, whoa, seeing Roku just go ham on him and some of the movements that Roku is doing and how nuanced, and it's nice seeing a fully trained Avatar. I see more nuanced skill with Roku, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And you also see great skill in the sense that he blows off the roof of the Fire Nation throne room, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, A tier, could go S tier depending on how I feel about it towards the end of the video, but A tier for sure. The next one we have Combustion Man versus Team Avatar. Again, this is when he finds them in the town in the runaway episode. I'm gonna put this one isn't as cool as his first encounter, so I'm gonna make this a B tier. It's not bad at all, and of course I like the move that Toph does at the end where she hits him with the pebble on the forehead. It's a good setup for what happens later when he does eventually combust his own head. It's still a cool fight, but it's just not as cool as his first one, so I wouldn't put it on the same tier. B tier I think is pretty solid for this one. And the next up we have Hama versus basically Team Avatar, but really against Katara versus Hama, and this one you gots to put it in S tier. Bloodbending changes the game for Avatar. This fight is crazy, including the animation, the atmosphere. This one does a really good job of, I mean, the title of the episode is called Puppet Master, and you really get that feeling of Hama basically just, you know, using people as puppets with bloodbending. Now, of course, I do have some issues with this fight in the sense that I think that Katara learns the ability too quickly and masters it too quickly. For me personally, I think she had plot armor. Besides that, and me having those issues, I still really love this fight. Visually, atmospherically, great one. Definitely S tier to me. And next up we have the Day of Black Sun battle. Now, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, I am not a fan of big battles. I just don't think they're done very well in The Last Airbender. And again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, it's because of shot selection and choreography and the dynamic. I feel like the shots that they choose sometimes to showcase some of these big battles, except for one big battle that I will be talking about later, it just feels so static. Like it's just like a shot, and then you have something happen, and then shot, but not like a lot of dynamic like camera motion and stuff like that. And then I never really think about this fight all that often, or this big battle scene really all that often. For me personally, this is a subjective list. It's a list about me and my interests. Gonna have to put it at C tier. And then next up we have Team Azula, or really Azula and the Dai Li versus Team Avatar, but not really Team Avatar because it's really just Aang, Toph, and Sokka. I really do like this one a lot. I don't think it's A tier though. It's a pretty standard like episodic fight. The thing that's awesome about it is that Azula is contending with all these benders without having her bending herself. She's just using her pure acrobatics. You know, Azula is like the best of both Mei and Ty Lee, and she has fire bending and she has lightning bending, so like she's kind of insane insane. Like, she's able to do this without any kind of bending, and that's what impresses me about this fight. But the fight itself, not something I'm super into, but not like a hater or anything like that. I think it's just pretty standard. I think it's a B tier for the fight scenes in The Last Airbender Book 3. And then next up, we have Ozai versus Zuko. I want to say S tier, but I know already for a fact that it's going to be on the lower end of S tier because it's so short. But still, like, even with it being so short, it's awesome. Not only because Ozai has this like crazy double forked lightning that he's able to use even with just a sliver of the sun exposed. Like, it wasn't like the full sun was back at that point, it was just a little bit, and he was able to sense that without seeing it. Like, he didn't see the sun coming back to, firebending is empowered again. He felt it in his soul, to be like, hey, firebending's back. And then for him to have that huge display of lightning, and then for Zuko to redirect it is crazy. But still, this whole visual thing is amazing, even especially when Zuko is holding in the lightning and his hair is all spiky and all that. It's super awesome. Really great moment. So I'm gonna say S tier, but I'm gonna specify that it's probably the lower end of S tier for me. And next up, we have the final battle between Combustion Man and Team Avatar, where Sokka comes to the rescue. So I'm gonna put this one in A tier, but I will put it below the first encounter with Combustion Man, because I think the first encounter with Combustion Man is the best one, like the best fight that we've seen with Combustion Man. This is, of course, the one where Zuko was trying to change his mind, Sokka's boomerang coming to save the day, but also I liked that there was a lot of wide shots so we could see the huge scope of the Western Air Temple and seeing how this big fight is going off and all the destruction that's happening around it. And of course, Combustion Man blowing off his own head. So that's always fun to watch, right? That's always fun. Then next up, we have the Boiling Rock fight, which is the one between Azula, Ty Lee versus Suki, Sokka, and Zuko. This one I think I'll put as an A tier, but sort of like the lower A tier, because again, I do like that there was a little bit more going on with the camera work, but I do think some of the choreography was kind of awkward. In particular, the choreography between the Sokka and Zuko versus Azula fight, it felt like they were like taking turns. This felt more, again, like I'm saying with a lot of Airbender fights, very static. What I like most about this fight though, and the reason why it gets the A tier to me and not just the B tier, is because of Ty Lee and Suki. Like, I think that fight was actually really cool. Some of the kung fu or whatever, I don't know if it was kung fu, or I'm sure some kung fu aficionado is gonna be like, that's not really kung fu. The karate looking kung fu fighting that they were doing looked awesome to me. And the next one we have is Bumi retaking Omashu. Now, before I even talk about this one, I should mention that yes, I am missing a lot of fights in here, and the reason is that a lot of the fights that were in here weren't really fights but more action scenes, and I almost consider it not even having the Bumi thing here because it's more of an action scene than it is a fight scene. But I'll keep it in there because I'm like, well, it's awesome. And I will put this I'm probably gonna put this at B tier, because while the concept of it is really awesome, like, the thought of him speaking about, I'm gonna retake my city, and him, throwing boulders and stuff like that. Again, the actual filmmaking of it isn't really all that impressive to me. So the next one, and this is one of those big battle fights that I was saying before that I generally don't like, but I like this one in particular. It's the White Lotus versus Ba Sing Se. And in particular, the reason I like this one so much, and I'll put this in A tier, but the reason why I put it in A tier, and the reason why this group fight works better for me than the previous ones, is because there's one particular shot, there's several, but there's one particular shot that I think was really well done. It was the scene between Piandao, Jianjian, and Haku when they're coming over the wall, right? There's this really nice sweeping shot. You see, like, the water coming over, then you have Piandao sliding it down and like hitting all of these soldiers, and then you see this huge fire flame coming, but then, Jianjian is putting up this huge firewall and protecting them, and you can see this all in one shot, and it's very swooping and it's very dynamic. So that's why I put this one at A tier. The next up, we have Sokka and his little gang with Toph and Suki taking on the airships. I'm gonna put this one probably like a high B tier for me, maybe like a low A tier. Again, this is going more in line with what I'm saying about the big battle stuff. Isn't as interesting to me, but I do like, in particular, the scene where they're like hanging from the bottom of one of those air balloons, one of the airships, and Sokka, of course, uses his meteor. Actually, you know what? Just for that, because of the meteor sword and the boomerang loss thing, I'm gonna put that in A tier. But I'm gonna put it on the bottom A tier. Yeah, I think I'll put it A tier, just for that boomerang meteor sword thing. I think it was really dope. And then, of course, let's get to the last two fights, which y'all already know what's gonna happen with them. We're gonna go S tier. all the way S tier for the Agni Kai, and we'll talk about these together because they're both going to go to the S tier. So we have the final fight between Ozai and Aang, and then we have the final fight between Azula and Zuko, and then with Katara at the end. I personally think that the Agni Kai fight is actually better than Aang and Ozai's fight. Now, true, Aang and Ozai's fight is way more has way more gravity to it, right? It's like the final boss. There's just huge landscape with like these mountainsides and the pillars. But for me, man, that the shot selection, I'm gonna say it again, the shot selection in the Agni Kai puts that way up at the top for me. So in terms of like the S tier, Agni Kai is first. Is the best fight in all of book 3. It's just so great. Like every portion of it, like the storytelling beats, the choreography itself, the visual appeal, the music, like all of that comes together to be like this really epic thing. Now with the Ozai and Aang fight, you already know that my big issue with that is that there's a big Deus Ex Machina thing that happens at the end with, you know, Aang hitting his spot and then, you know, the whole taking the bending away, which is fine. I'm okay with it personally, but I just don't think people level that critique against it enough when they do level many critiques against Korra and the things that, you know, kind of intervened in her fights, but people don't really talk about the intervention in this fight in particular. But now the question is, where do I put it in the S tier slot? Now I definitely think it's better than the Zuko and Ozai fight. Now the question is, do I think? No, yeah, I think it's better than the Hama fight. So yeah, I would put it second place in terms of the S tier. And then in the A tier, I would say that first Combustion Man fight has to stay there. I would probably put the Roku fight actually a little bit higher. I'll probably put the White Lotus fight. Nah, the White Lotus fight gotta go right here. Yeah, I like that. I like the Sokka airship stuff at the bottom of A tier, and then the Boiling Rock fight. Good spot. Now I can kind of understand more about the Sokka. Yeah, so now that I'm looking at it now, I would say that the Sokka Piandao fight should be B tier for me. Actually, I kind of like this setup. I like that the Combustion Man third fight is behind that one because I really like that movement that Toph did with the small little pebble. And the Azula fight I think is in a good spot. Bumi place is in a good spot, and the Day of Black Sun battle scene I think is in a good spot. So yes, this is my list right here. I'm pretty comfortable with how it's laid out. That is it, guys. So those are all my fight scenes done together. I will be doing another video to kind of cap this off, talking about my all-time favorite fight scenes from all 3 seasons, so stick around for that video in which I'll do, you know, my favorite fight scenes from all of Last Airbender. Keep a lookout for that one. I'll see you guys on the next one. Of course, let me know what your tier list is and what your favorite fight scenes from book 3 is in the comments below, or you can watch more of my videos here at the side of my face. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.